Okay, so today we are going to start with the concepts of deployment, right? That's pretty simple thing, probably require one or two sessions. That's right. Now, see, what is the difficulty with the developer org that we have created? I guess, like, if I go with the developer account, the one which we were using for entire training duration for your admin, development, integrations, and everything. So we created a developer edition account, right? And apart from every other functionalities, like it although provides you everything, almost everything that you have, you probably will going to receive in your unlimited edition. That everything, whatever you see, if you got a chance to work with the unlimited edition. So whatever the things what you are seeing over here right now, they are exactly same in the unlimited even, right? Only the apart from the few things like the data storage and the file storage capacity over there in the unlimited editions, that's really 1 GB. I mean, 1 GB you could have for data, 1 GB you could have for storing the files and as well. Here, bandwidth is a little bit low that you almost get 5 MB for data and 20 MB for the file storage. So that is one of the difference, and there are few more differences, especially with the deployments, right? Let me try to show you something. So, see, in either in any of the paid edition, it could be your enterprise edition or it could be your unlimited edition. See, what is the main difference if you can see that? So we can compare how much restricted is your developer edition as far as the deployments and everything is required. See, let me try to show you that. So this is I'm actually being logging into one of the Sandbox of Enterprise Edition, a licensed copy of Enterprise Edition. So let me try to show you something with respect to your Classic Edition. So this is one of the Sandbox I'm actually using these days. And if I go to the setup menu, see the kind of functionalities what you see over here in the administer menu, build menu, and then create and monitors. Okay, so functionality wise, this is same. Now, by the way, which edition this is? For that, I require to go to the company profiles and I require to go with the company information. So here you can see that this one is a sandbox of an enterprise edition. The CS instance, the CS actually stands for sandbox, right? CS server itself means and then it's a sandbox. So this one is a sandbox edition of which one? The enterprise edition. Now, if you closely observe, the functionality wise, actually it is same. Functionality wise, it's same. Okay. Now, because this one is a sandbox, so we like here you can see the enterprise. This one is an paid edition, so that's why you can see the data storage is over here is 1 GB and 1 GB for file and 1 GB for data. But in our case, even what we are using is your free developer account, right? With the free developer account, what we get is 5 MB, right? 5 MB for data and 20 MB for what? File storage. So that is something which is different. The bandwidth is low over here. And the most important difference, what you can observe is like, when you go to this section, see, when you go to the deployment section, you only have two things, deployment settings and deployment status. That means whatever the project that you have, what is the application that you have created over here, whatever the business logic, the kind of requirement that you have, you have built up over here. It includes your applications, it includes your objects, custom objects, fields, custom fields. It includes the type of classes, business logic, triggers, visual force pages, right? Components could be like your LWC component or a component, whatever you have built up over here on the developer edition. You cannot deploy it from here to any other instance. That means this is just for the training purpose. Try to understand. The developer edition, right? The developer editions account, what we are using, what we were using from the past 6 to 7 months, that is just for the training purpose. Now, in the real time, whenever you develop something, for example, this is a sandbox. See the differences with the deployment section. When I go to the deployment, when I go to the deployment, so apart from this deployment settings and deployment status, these two things were over here as well. But deployment have only two things, settings and status. But if you observe over here, you can see that there is something called as outbound and inbound change sets. So that is very essential tool. That is very essential tool for the deployment. Okay. We will going to understand what does it means by the inbound and outbound chain sets. Okay, because with this only we are going to perform the deployment, right? We are not going to use any other tools like usually DevOps and Copados or Workbench are used for the deployment in real time usually. But what we are going to use is, we will be using we will be using that built-in kind of functionality with the Salesforce, that is inbound and outbound chain sets. And even if someone asks you this in the interview, have you worked on the deployment? So you're required to say that yes, I have used that internal functionalities like with the inbound and outbound chain sets. Actually, I have performed the deployment, because deployment is something which is not our part. It's actually there's a separate team. There's a separate team for that usually. But I mean, being a Salesforce person, you must know everything, right? You must know everything. That's the reason we are taking this topic. So this is something. So inbound and outbound chain set. This is something which is actually available with the paid versions only. Okay, with the paid versions only. So if you don't have this, you definitely cannot learn deployments, right? You definitely cannot learn with deployments, because for learning the deployment, you must have something called as chain sets, whether it's an inbound and outbound. You must have both of them, inbound as well as outbound. Now, with your developer edition, it's not possible, because in the developer edition, we only have deployment settings and the deployment status. Okay, that doesn't signifies anything to our deployment process. So that is the reason this edition will not going to help you out. The developer edition, what you were using from past 6 to 7 months, that is not going to help you out for this deployment. So what we require to do is, like, we obviously cannot purchase a license versions, right? We obviously cannot do that. But then there is a way that you can learn the deployment, but not with the developer edition. You require to create something called as 30 days trial account. Now, if you remember one thing in our beginning days, when I started this training with you guys. So I told you that we were learning something called as how many different types of editions there in the Salesforce. So there are something called as paid edition and free editions as well. So in the paid you have essential and professional, but that only provides you SaaS functionalities, and it's basically for our clients. But for the development purpose, whenever we wanted to do the development, right? So when we either required an enterprise or we required an unlimited edition, right? So these are the two paid versions, right? But in the free editions as well, there were two options: 30 days trial account and a permanent account. So what we preferred that time was a free developer account, because it's not going to expire till the time for the next 365 days. If you won't use it, if you won't use it for at least 1 year, then probably it's going to be get expired. Even though before that, before making that account deactive, Salesforce will provide you lots of the email notifications so that you could at least log in once into your org. And even if you log in once, so it's again going to refresh for next 365 days. That means this one is literally your lifetime account. If you just require to log in it once in a year, it goes from next from that date, it again is validated for the next 1 year. So this is something what you can keep yourself for your practice, for your trainings and everything throughout the life, right? But what is the drawback with this is, like, just now we have seen that it doesn't have any facility to deploy whatever we are constructing. If we are creating an application, we are creating some objects, fields, we are creating the business rules with the workflows, with the process builders, with the flows. We are creating the reports, analytics part, like dashboards and everything. We are doing some settings. Okay, in the user levels, we are creating the profiles. We are creating the permission sets. We are creating the assignment rules. We are creating the escalations, whatever. And I mean, this was your non-coding part. This was configuration. Now, if you go to the customization, whatever, if you are creating a classes, you are writing the SOQLs. Okay, you are creating the batch classes. You are creating the schedulable interfaces. Whatever you are doing, you are creating the workflows. Oh, sorry, that Visual Force part. You are doing some Ajax programming. Okay, so whatever you are developing in your developer account, that is just restricted to that account itself, and we don't have any facility that we could deploy these things. I could deploy this thing, right? So because for deployment, we certainly require something called as chain sets, and we require to create something called as sandboxes. So we one by one, like, we are going to start with what does it means by the chain sets and what does it mean. Okay, sorry. So what does it means by the sandboxes? So now what we require to create is, like, for understanding the deployment purpose. That's hardly 1 or 2 sessions job, and we are creating something called as a 30 days trial account. So that is going to, if you today you are going to create, it's going to be like an expired after 30 days, almost a month back. That means you have a sufficient time. You have a sufficient time to practice on this. 30 days trial account. You must have a sufficient time to practice on deployment concepts over this 30 days trial account, right? So let's do that. The first thing is like, we require this. After this, we are going to create something called as sandboxes. I'm going to give you that introduction as well. What does it means by the sandboxes? What are the different types of sandboxes and what's the purpose of sandbox? So everything we will be learning, but just first of all, let's go with the step number one. And that step is actually, let's create a 30 days trial account. Let's create a 30 days trial account. So for that, we require something called as 30 days trial account. Okay. So for that, what you require to do is like, you require to go with, Salesforce.com, Salesforce.com. That's the Salesforce website. And here, if you see, here, if you see that there's a link called as Start My Free Trial, right? Start My Free Trial. This one. Here you can see that there's a button called as, there's a link for that Start My Free Trial. Now you require to click, you actually require to click this. You actually require to click this. Okay, so I'm clicking on this Start My Free Trial, and then, let's write down the first name. First name I'm giving it as a batch. You can give, obviously, you can give your any name for that. And then I'm selecting your batch. Okay, right. Now, with this email, we actually already have registered one of the developer account. Let me see whether same email ID is actually going to permit us to create a free 30 day style account or not. I'm a little bit confused about this thing because I know with this email, with this email, we already have created one of the developer account. Okay. You can select any job title, like, you can select any job title, you can select any company over here. And then, it's not like, and if you wanted to give this, otherwise, let me skip. Okay. That's something which is mandatory. Okay. Let me try to give my, because I'm not sure whether it's going to give some sort of validation code or what. So that's why, I'm actually giving my registered number. Now here I can select the country has to be India, Italy, Ireland, India. Yeah. The state, okay, state also required to be get selected. So I'm selecting Maharashtra. Batch 201 deployment. This is this. Okay, I'm agree with the main service agreements. I'm agree and start my free trial. Okay, start my free trial. So probably the process would be same. I mean, what I am expecting is like, after this submission, we are probably expecting one of the email over here for that activation link and everything, right? Yeah. So what it will do is like, as soon as you submit this, it actually route you to the production environment. See, AB26 servers has been allotted AB26. But see, before you even perform anything over here, what I wanted you is like, just close this. Just close it. Listen this very carefully. That's very essential. Without activating the account, don't do anything over there, right? You just require to go to that supplied email ID, what of the registered email ID that you have done, right? And we are expecting one of the activation email over here. We are expecting one of the activation email over here. So even after verifying your account and after setting the passwords and everything, then again relog in, then again relog into that account. So let's wait for some duration. I mean, let's wait for some duration. And let's wait for that email of the verification email. We are going to get it from the Salesforce. Don't start working after immediately when after saving that when you got first login. Don't start working. Just close that window and come back to this email ID, whatever you have supplied. So after verifying your account, then only start working. That's one of the things. Anyways, so let's wait for some duration. This sometimes this come immediately, sometimes it takes time. You know this because you also have seen the same thing, right? Okay. Hmm. So meanwhile, this is coming. Let me try to show you what does it means by the sandboxes and everything. The image is little bit blurred because I actually have cropped this from the video like of my from the videos which I got to prepare. Uh, Now, let's understand what does it means by the sandbox. I mean, meanwhile, oh, it's come. Right, let's do the same thing first, then we'll come back to that. So we got this email from Salesforce, right? Support.salesforce.com. And it's same when first time you created your developer account, the same email was like there. So this is your to easy login. You can go with this, or else what you can do is like, you can copy this username, you can copy this username, right? And even, I mean, let's do one thing. Let's copy this, like, let's copy this URL, username, and everything, right? And keep it with us. Username, like, URL, first of all. URL, what we received is like this. Username that has been given, this is the username. And you can see that this username actually is differed, with the email ID. In developer account, what's really happens is like, the email what you have supplied, that is considered to be the username. Or you can, there's an option, there's a direct option to give the username in the developer account when you go and create a developer account with developer.salesforce.com, right? If you remember, developer.salesforce.com, there was direct an option. There was an option that you can give your username, if you remember. I mean, the only thing what you write, the only thing what is required over here is that username must be in a form of email ID. That was the thing. But when you are creating a 30 days trial account, actually this username is created from the Salesforce itself. That is one of the difference if you have observed. So I certainly required to copy this username, right? I certainly required to copy this username and then the password. The passwords that we require to set. Okay. So I'm going and verifying my account and I'm entering my passwords over here. That password for this, I'm actually writing the password to be, training batch 01 deployment. At the rate 01. This is the password what I will be. Right now, go with the security questions, whatever you wanted to select. Right, there are so many security questions. It's up to you what you're required to select and then change password. Now this requires to be done. See, whenever you log in for the first time, don't do anything over here. That's why. As soon as you log in, just close that window. Just close that window and come to here. Okay, just close the window and come to here. Now see, as soon as if you log in, if you observe on the top of this, you can see that days left in the trial is 30. Now by tomorrow, if I'm going to log in, I obviously going to see 29, right? So this is one of the counter, this is one of the counter that started as soon as you log in for the first time. Right? Days left in the trial, and that's 30. Right. So that's why the reason, that's why the reason this is called as 30 days trial account. Okay. This one is called as 30 days trial account. Now, if you wanted to see the addition, okay, let me first of all switch from here to classic. Switch to the Salesforce classic. Yeah. So here also like 30 days remaining that you can see. Now, if you wanted to see which particular edition, this 30 days trial account is actually creating which particular edition. So for that what I'll be doing is like, I don't want it to start it and everything. Let me go with the company profile and the company information. In the company information, you can see that this one is actually a professional edition. This one is actually a professional edition, and the server number is AP26. AP26, right? The server number is AP26. So for my first login, when I have logged in, I can see over here AP26, but now the name of the organization is being listed out. ABC entitlement, but my Salesforce.com. But in your case, it was like, developer edition, developer dev ed my Salesforce.com. So if you remember that login.salesforce.com, and if I go with 201, here you can see that it was like dev at .mysalesforce.com. But here there is no developer edition. That is ABC entitlement, the name of the organization, dot my Salesforce.com. That is what. So this one is actually a professional edition. Now there's one more thing we would like to discuss over here, guys. See, with the professional edition, you don't get the facilities of Post.com. This 30 days trial account is actually for the clients. This 30 days trial account is actually for the clients to understand how does the Salesforce actually looks like to be. Now see, okay, there are four different types of paid edition: essential and professional. Essential is something called group edition, and professional is the advanced version of essential. Advanced version of, but this is for this is just for this is just having the SaaS, and this is just for the clients because it doesn't have any post.com facility. Whenever we wanted to have development, we must have something called a SaaS plus MES. Apart from the complete CRM functionalities, what is over there, we definitely require post.com platform functionalities to create some application. So this 30 days trial account, is actually a replica of your professional edition. Now, professional edition, what's the drawback with the professional edition? That doesn't provide you any facility of the development, right? Doesn't provide you any facility of the development. That means you cannot create a classes and the triggers and everything over here, right? If you go, if you go and if you try to create, you won't see any option. You won't see any option of the classes and all that. Let's see that. If I go with my setup menu with the developer edition, right? And if I expand the create, like I have the option, not create, sorry. With the develop, if I expand, I can see the options of Apex classes and the triggers and the visual post numbers and everything. Now the same thing if I like to create over here. In the develop, I don't see any set. The develop, you have Apex classes and Apex triggers, right? Here, do you see classes and triggers? No, right? You don't see that, right? Don't see that. Then in the events, in the lightning components, you can create a visual force page. In the lightning components, you can create a visual force page. In the lightning components given, okay, you can create a visual force page. Then how you are going to create a controller for that? That could be a static visual force page, but it doesn't have any controller because controller ultimately is a class. Don't have any facility to create the class. That is why this is again one of the good example to understand what's a difference between a professional edition and an enterprise edition or maybe an enterprise. If you ever wanted to have the development, then you require post.com. And see, that was the reason why we created this free developer account. Because free developer account have all the facilities of unlimited edition. Right? That is why. Some of the things, the bandwidth was like low, and it doesn't provide you deployment facility. That's perfectly fine. But for the development part, whatever you require, that were available with your free developer account. So entire training was done onto this edition, just to understand the deployment. Because see, this edition we haven't created for any development purpose. That is already we learned that we have a developer account to do everything, right? We have a developer account to do everything. Here we don't require that functionality. Here, what we'll be learning, this account we just created, the account we created, although it's a professional edition, that won't going to bother us because we certainly require something called as sandboxes, inbound and outbound chain sets. These are the things that are essentially required to understand the deployment, and that is there into this edition, right? That is there because this one is a production environment. This one is a production environment. You see the option of sandbox. Now, from this production environment, what does it mean? From this production environment, I could definitely create the sandbox. And then inside the sandboxes, when I will logging, I'll even see these four options. Sandbox doesn't have the option to create a sandbox. Sandboxes could only be created from the production environment, right? Now let's understand what does it mean by the sandbox. So as in step number one, every one of you by today will require to create this account. Every one of you by today will require create this account. And when this email comes to you, just copy the URL and the username, because the username you are not going to supply. Understand? This is what it makes a difference between creating a developer account and creating a 30 days trial account. In your developer account, you are the one who actually supply the username, but with your 30 days trial account, Salesforce will going to supply this, right? You just require to enter the credentials. And so what I'm telling you is like, yeah. And so what I was telling was like, whenever this credential are being supplied to you, just copy everything. Just copy the URL, username, and then set any suitable password for your account, right? So The first, as an step number one, every one of you required to create a 30 days trial account, because with this we are going to get the options, and we will be creating sandboxes. We will be understanding what does it mean by the inbound and the outbound chain sets, and the entire deployment we are going to perform this with the chain sets only. With the chain sets only, right? That's completely non-coding. Don't worry about it. As I told you in the beginning itself, the first part of the training and the last part of the training, that means admin and deployment, that's completely non-coding. The rest for the for the development and integration, you certainly require to code, right? Chaliye. So this is your step number one for today. You require to create a 30 days trial account. Let me now give you a brief idea about what does it means by the sandbox. Okay. Uh, you probably any one of you might have heard, someone of you, like there is something called a simulators. Okay, now what does exactly a simulator means? It's a kind of device, first of all, and it creates that kind of environment. It replicates the environment of the original device. Let me try to describe you. Like, see, whenever someone goes for a training of a pilot, right? And someone goes to a training of the pilot. So before they actually sit that person into the cockpit of actual kind of plane, and they start teaching the controls, they actually train these guys into one of the device called as flight simulator. Now, what does this flight simulator? That actually, flight simulator again come for different types of plane, because there are different companies. There are different kind of brands with the plane as well. Like Boeing is there, and F-16 is there, right? So these are some of the different organizations. So whenever a new plane actually, whenever they launch a new kind of plane, so they used to train their pilot about the controls and everything. Okay, I mean, now this is something new. This plane have this additional functionality. It's just like, you see some functionalities in one of the car or one of the brand, and some other functionalities like with some other brands of the car. So that's kind of similar thing. So these pilots usually, they need themselves to be get trained with the flight simulators, and they put some training hours, and some mandatory training hours, and they got trained with the simulator first. And once they perform everything fine with the simulator, now they actually being, put into the actual plane, and then they fly the same plane. So this is a kind of similar example. So basically, what the simulator is, it's a kind of dummy environment. It's a kind of replicated environment, a kind of augmented reality. What you can see over there in the real, the same thing. The same thing. Actually, they require to put it. They require to create the scenarios in the simulator itself. And these trainings are essential because, apart from flying only, apart from this flying, apart from getting the knowledge about every control of the device, so what they know is like, how with the different situations these pilots can perform, right? If something bad happens with the engines, or something bad happens with the plane, or maybe with some other kind of emergency, some kind of SOS. So how they will going to respond and everything. So that is something which is a part of their training, and for that device simulator is very essential, right? Now, see, here in the software engineering, let's come to that part. Why I was trying to go to this example. Actually, it's a little bit related thing. It's a little bit related thing. So here in the software industry, what we usually do is like, the kind of development, whatever we do, see, understand one thing. We never do it onto the production environment. We never do it directly onto the production environment. Because if something bad happens accidentally, we could possibly make some kind of mistakes, like, we could delete the record, you know, we could delete the record, or maybe, we could delete the business logic, or maybe, like, we do some wrong business logic, not just deleting, but we could, accidentally commit a kind of mistake that's going to harm, because the production is directly used by the customer, and it have the actual data. It actually contains the actual data of the client. Now we could, because of the wrong business logic we have formed, or because of something bad, even it's just a kind of email alert, a very small thing. It's just an email alert. So with that wrong email alert or wrong message was being circulated, so it could even harm the credibility of the client. So something bad could happen with this. And so, we never do any sort of development onto the production. So right now, see what you created. just now what you created, that 30 days trial account, that is actually an example of production. This one is a production environment. This one is a production environment. Understand this. This one is a production environment for ABC entitlement. That's the name of the organization. This is one of the organization, and that recently contacted Salesforce that I wanted to try. When I just wanted to look how does the Salesforce looks like to be, so that I could proceed with. I mean, I wanted to have for my organization, I could proceed with the Salesforce CRM. But for that, I wanted a demo. Like I have given you demo for all 1 week, right? In beginning of your class, the same way. So Salesforce provided that production environment for this ABC entitlement. Okay, just go with this. We are going to provide you a 30 days account, and you can understand the functionalities, right? And if you find everything good in prospect to your business, you can definitely come back to us, and then we can provide you something, whatever, right? So this is an example of production. But see, if I wanted to create a workflow, if I wanted to create a class, if I wanted to test, 1 second. Yeah. So this actually is a production environment. This actually is a production environment. But if I wanted to develop something for this environment, I wanted to develop something for this company, I'm not going to use this. So how does the Salesforce development actually goes? Understand that. This is one of the organizations called ABC. Now ABC contacted Salesforce that I wanted to use Salesforce. I wanted to develop, or rather they come to my company. They come to my company. Okay, they come to Skyline Sales. What we are one of the registered Salesforce development partners. Okay, we are probably among the thousands of the Salesforce partners. We are one of the partners who is situated in Nagpur. Now, this ABC entitlement actually contacted to Salesforce, or maybe they contact to us directly that we wanted for our product, we wanted you to develop one of the applications. So we taking this requirement, taking this everything from this, and because we are the registered partner, that partners one we could even generate the sales, we could even generate the business for the sales. Because see, if you ever wanted to develop anything for the Salesforce, you require to be a partner. You first of all require to obtain the partnership of sales. So every organization where you will be going to be get recruited, he is actually a partner. Like my company, is also a partner of sales. If I am developing something, if my company is developing something for the SAP, they require to get obtain the partnership of the SAP. So this is how actually industry goes. So now I'll be going to contact on behalf of ABC entitlement. I'll going to contact sales. I'm going to contact the Salesforce. And before that, we internally had discussed. Before that we internally had discussed that what kind of environment. So I will be telling that I will be telling that a ABC entitlement that for your project, I will be actually allotting one project manager. I'll be allotting like one consultant, one business consultant, a business consultant or something called as business analyst, a BA. I'm going to allot. So I'm actually defining the manpower, how much the manpower is going to be get employed for how much duration. And these are some essential things for the billing purpose. Understand this terminology. These are something essential for the business, for the billing purpose. You must know this. Although you are not going to directly, I mean, this, but yeah, in the future, how to understand it, how the bills are generated in the IT. So I'll be informing after that every understanding. I mean, after that every discovery, after that understanding of the requirement in the discovery phase. Now I'm actually submitting one of the proposal to ABC entitlement. Okay, this would be like this would be work size. This would be work size. So now this work size actually consists of one project manager and probably these are something which is always common in every organization. Some of the posts like one project manager, okay, or one delivery head, okay, one delivery head, and maybe like one business analyst PA, like and like one or maybe one architect is sufficient for one architect, okay, one Salesforce architect, and then we have like two module leads because we are developing this module, two module leads are there, and then probably we have a team of 10 Salesforce developers. Okay. उसके बाद में वी हैव अ टीम ऑफ 3 सॉफ्टवेयर टेस्टर्स and then we have like 2 guys from the deployment. So this is the whole team size. This is the whole team size. Now, when everything has been discussed, when everything has been discussed with ABC entitlement, now we sign a contract. We sign a contract. This is going to be the probable estimation along with the cost. Okay, and that even includes the cost of life. तो अब हम ही एबीसी वालों को बताएंगे कि वी रिक्वायर दिस मच ऑफ देयर विल बी वन लाइसेंस फॉर यू, आपके लिए एक लाइसेंस, but that will be a professional edition. ठीक है, प्रोफेशनल एडिशन का लाइसेंस. एंड okay, so that will be a professional edition for you, because whatever we develop in, even though we will involve you, because we follow a technology called as agile methodology. You remember this agile methodology, and everything happens in a sprints. That means after every sprint we involve the client. Okay, this is something what we have developed. This is the outcome of first. This is the first release. Okay, this is the first release. So we will going to involve you. So you for that you must have one of the environment, because we are not going to share our credentials. You must have some your environment, so that we could upload the changes onto your, we could deploy the changes onto your environment. ये जो environment है इसका, यहाँ पर हम changes को deploy करेंगे, ठीक है. And we will ask you, okay, now please take a look onto this, now please take a look onto this. So you as an ABC you must have your own environment. आपके पास भी खुद का एक environment होना चाहिए, and that environment will be professional edition, because you don't certainly require development functionalities. तो आपके पास होना चाहिए professional edition. But we must either have unlimited edition, or we must have something called as unlimited or enterprise. Sorry, enterprise edition. Enterprise edition. So these are the two editions that provide us the functionalities of development. Right? That is what. So what you can do is, like, you can go with the professional edition, or you can directly buy unlimited edition or enterprise. And then you require to create sandboxes for us. We will be telling you how much sandboxes we require. We will be telling you how much sandboxes we require. Now, that completely depends on the hierarchy of the team. If we are saying that there are 10 people that are going to be, get employed, there are 10 people that are going to be work on this project, including project manager, delivery manager, certainly require one license per user. So if I'm saying that there will be 10 persons will going to be work on your project, we certainly require 10 copies of Sandboxes licenses, 10 copy of Sandbox license. So this is how billings and everything goes. This is how what we actually do as manager. तो आप भी आगे चल के जब मैनेजर्स बनोगे ना, तो these are something. तब आप डेवलपमेंट से हट जाते स्पेशली, and it's something that कोई स्टक आता है तब यूजुअली आप इन्वॉल्व होते हैं. अदरवाइज मैनेजर लेवल पे ना, वी जस्ट रिक्वायर्ड टू डू द प्लानिंग. अभी रिसेंटली, अब जैसे मैं भी स्टार्ट हो गया हूँ, करीब साल भर हो गया मुझे भी अभी मैनेजर लेवल पे आके. तो व्हाट आई एम मोस्टली, आई मतलब डेवलपमेंट में हूँ मैं स्टिल, बिकॉज मेरा थोड़ा सा अभी काफी सारे रिसोर्सेस अचानक से चले गए हैं, तो मैं थोड़ा सा ओवर बर्डनाइज हो गया हूँ. दैट्स ऑफ कोर्स, बट दैट्स ओनली द ड्यूरेशन. और अभी सही समय अपनी कंपनी को कॉपरेट करने का, बिकॉज दिस इज द राइट टाइम वेयर यू कैन प्रूव हाउ वर्दी यू आर टू योर कंपनी, राइट? So always justify with your company, or have a good experience, and that's also creates a dependence. ताकि अगर कल आगे चल के आपको कुछ बातें मनवानी है, आप दैट डिपेंडेंस. So it's always it's always good to work hard. मेरे साथ मतलब ये मेरी पॉलिसी है, आप अपने साथ करिए. तो कैसा है कि दिस इज हाउ एंटायर थिंग गोज, लाइक ऐसा चलता है, मतलब कि नॉर्मली हमेशा ऐसा चलता है. तो वी ऑलवेज आस्क, मतलब अगर 5 भी लोग डिप्लॉय हो रहे हैं, तो वी ऑलवेज आस्क फॉर मोर लाइक. हम हमेशा ऐसा ही करते हैं, बिकॉज सी लाइसेंसेस एंड एवरीथिंग वी कुड आस्क इन द बिगिनिंग ओनली. आप एक चीज समझो, अगर इवन मेरे को 5 लोग भी डिप्लॉय करने वाले, तो आई वुड आस्क फॉर 15 लाइसेंस, 15 लाइसेंसेस. I'll keep 10 thing in buffer. I'll keep 10 thing in the buffer. और मे बी अगर 15 नहीं तो एटलीस्ट 10 मांगूंगा, ताकि मैं 5 को डिप्लॉय कर दूं, 5 लाइसेंसेस दे दूं, और 5 में बफर में रखूं. बिकॉज समटाइम्स इवन वी रिक्वायर टू इंक्रीज द मैन, हो सकता है ऐसा. तो वी विल पुट अ न्यू सीआर. अगर क्लाइंट की रिक्वायरमेंट चेंज होती है, या कुछ और होता है, तो देन वी कैन आस्क कि अभी मुझे इसमें 2 लोग और बढ़ाने चाहिए. तो वी कुड हम लोग हमेशा ना 2 से 3 लाइसेंसेस के 5 लाइसेंसेस बफर में रखते. तो दिस इज द यूजुअल प्रोसेस. और ये धीरे धीरे अगर आप उस लेवल पे जाते हो, तो आप इसको कंपनी टू कंपनी डिफर करता है ये.
how the organization works, but you definitely going to learn for your organization how actually your organization do this. Your managers will going to train you for this, right? तो एक लेवल के बाद में देखो आपको ना ये सब चीजें भी आगे चल के करनी पड़ सकती हैं अपार्ट फ्रॉम प्रोडक्ट। चलिए, सो अब ये एक चीज हो गई, तो दिस इज माय प्रोडक्शन, दिस इज माय प्रोडक्शन। Now we don't do anything in the production environment. Understand what? So that is actually not for our purpose. It is for the client. Client की जो CR दिखाना है. Whenever we develop something and we wanted the client should have an client should give that acknowledgement. Yeah, this is something you are doing good, or this something on this front I wanted to change certain things. You know. So change request फिर क्या है? Do we require to change request as a part of development की या नया है? That is also one of the things. कि अभी अभी जो client ने request किया है, whether it was a part of development जो discuss हुआ था डिस्कवरी में, या उससे कुछ नया बता रहा है, तो फिर उसके हिसाब से आर्स बदलते हैं, ये चलता रहता है, दिस गोज थ्रू आउट द प्रोजेक्ट इवन आफ्टर एंडिंग द प्रोजेक्ट। चलिए, तो अभी जो एनवायरनमेंट आपने क्रिएट किया था 30 days ट्रायल अकाउंट, दैट्स अ प्रोडक्शन, एंड वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू डू एनीथिंग ऑन टू because this is something for the client. Now what client will generate sandboxes for us. We will ask the client to generate the sandboxes. For example, in my team I require 2 sandboxes or 4 or 5, whatever, ठीक है। So we will ask the client that now because you already got the license of your, है ना, आपने खरीद लिया, आपके पास में लाइसेंस है, generate generate the sandbox. If they are having the technical teams with them, they will going to generate. Otherwise, what really happens is, they will pass the credentials for a few duration to us and we by ourselves, because we are the technical person. We know Salesforce how to create the sandbox. So your administrator usually do this, right? And then he will supply the credential back to him, or he will ask the client, now you can change your credential uh, because we have generated this much of the sandboxes. Our requirement is okay. Now you and you keep your credentials, just change it, and we are now going to start the development onto our end. This is the place where we actually go. Now sandbox is what? Sandbox is two copy. It's a Xerox copy. It's a photocopy. It's a replica. It's a replica of your production. So if this is your reality, if this is your reality, the sandbox is that augmented reality what we are going to work. So this environment sandbox is a kind of augmented reality. It's artificial reality. It's a replica of your production. Whatever the functionality your production have, your sandbox also have. It doesn't have, in sandbox you cannot create again a sandbox. That's the only thing probably is different. But otherwise everything whatever your production have, if it's a professional edition, whatever the functionality you got in the professional edition, the same you got in the sandbox. If it's an unlimited edition, whatever the functionality you got with the unlimited edition in the production, the same you will going to get it inside the sandbox of that. So that again completely depends what edition production, and what edition is the of the production, right? Or what is the Salesforce edition of the production. All of the functionalities that are available with this edition, they are going to be available onto the sandboxes as. So we will ask, first of all, we will ask our client to get the license. And mostly it is unlimited or mostly it is enterprise. See, mostly it is unlimited and enterprise. Ask them to get this license. Normally, we don't suggest professional edition or group edition. Why? Because it doesn't have any facility of development. It doesn't have any facility. So whenever any client comes to us, we will ask either he can afford the unlimited license or either he can afford the enterprise edition. If it's possible with him, then we will always suggest them to go with the unlimited, otherwise go with that session. Because these are the minimum two requirements what we want. You have seen that for Orange County project, the client has given us the credentials of enterprise edition. That's the minimum requirement. Now we cannot ask him कि आप production ये ले लो, आप professional edition ले लो या group edition. वो आपके ठीक है, but हमारे लिए क्या? अगर आप उसका sandbox भी बना के देते हो, तो even in that sandbox I cannot do the development. अगर आप देख रहे हो कि if you are inside the production environment, don't see that here there is no facility of creating a class and triggers. There is no facility to create that. तो अगर हम इसका sandbox भी बनाएंगे तो obviously उसमें भी वो functionality नहीं रहेगी. So that's why we don't suggest anybody to go with the professional edition. But minimum requirement is enterprise edition. Otherwise, if it is good, go with the unlimited edition. If you have that much of budget with you, please go with the unlimited. Otherwise, at least our minimum requirement, being a Salesforce team, our minimum requirement is go with the your essential edition and enterprise edition. We never suggest essential and professional to anyone. That's just for client to have a look on it. Otherwise, आई डोंट थिंक दिस इज समथिंग विद, हाँ प्रोबेबली विद द, अभी जैसे इसमें क्या हो सकता है कि जैसे कि फॉर दिस ईयर अभी अभी डेवलपमेंट चल रहा है फॉर ईयर 2022, तो 22 में दे क्लाइंट है, मान के चलो कि अपना क्लाइंट है भारत पेट्रोलियम। भारत पेट्रोलियम ने दे हैव परचेज द लाइसेंस ऑफ अनलिमिटेड, अनलिमिटेड एडिशन इसका ले लिया, और फिर उसने हमको सैंडबॉक्स दे दिए, वी क्रिएट। पर नेक्स्ट ईयर, जब नेक्स्ट ईयर आया तो 2023 आया, अब जैसे उसका एप्लीकेशन फॉर एग्जांपल पूरा डेवलप हो चुका है ना, सेल्सफोर्स विल आस्क टू रिन्यू द लाइसेंस, तब वो देखेगा कि अभी बिकॉज देयर इज नो डेवलपमेंट राइट नाउ गोइंग ऑन, तो नाउ व्हाट ही कैन आस्क कि अभी आप एक काम करो, अभी आप मेरे को प्रोफेशनल एडिशन का लाइसेंस, क्योंकि अभी कोई डेवलपमेंट थोड़ी ना है, देयर इज नथिंग अंडर नेट, देयर इज नो डेवलपमेंट इज गोइंग अंडर नेट राइट, अंडर बीने देयर इज नो डेवलपमेंट गोइंग इन बिहाइंड, जस्ट दे रिस्पॉन्डेड ड्यू टू द फंक्शनैलिटी व्हाटएवर दे आर यूज, जो भी उसको सैस बना के दिया उसको वो यूज करना चाहता है। तो फिर हो सकता है इसके बाद में 2023 में और 2024 में वो फिर बोलेगा कि मेरे को अभी अभी मैं भी कोई इम्प्रूवमेंट नहीं है, कोई कोई डेवलपमेंट नहीं करवाना है, कोई चेंजेस नहीं करवाना है, तो ये 2 साल तक फिर वो प्रोफेशनल एडिशन यूज करेगा। 2025 में कोई पॉलिसीज में चेंजेस आए, अब उसको डेवलपमेंट करवाओ, नाउ दे वांट, क्या हो सकता है 2024 के मिडल में ही उसको रियलाइज हुआ कि अभी कुछ चेंजेस हैं जिसको मैं चेंज करा, नाउ देन ही विल कॉन्टेक्ट दैट सेल्सफोर्स कि अभी आप मेरा लाइसेंस चेंज कर दो, प्रोफेशनल एडिशन से आप उसको वापस मुझे अनलिमिटेड एडिशन दो, ताकि मैं मेरा जो ट्रेनिंग पार्टनर है, ठीक है, मेरा जो ट्रेनिंग पार्टनर है स्काईलाइन क्लाउड सॉल्यूशन, उसको मैं कॉन्टेक्ट करूँ और कुछ डेवलपमेंट करवा लूँ। तो जब भी डेवलपमेंट करवाना है, वी जस्ट रिक्वायर टू हैव अ लाइसेंस ऑफ एंटरप्राइज और अनलिमिटेड। तो मोस्टली क्या होता है, कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जब डेवलपमेंट पर्पस के लिए आती है, दे विल यूज अनलिमिटेड और एंटरप्राइज फॉर अ सर्टेन ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द टाइम, दिस टाइम इज अ डेवलपमेंट। उसके बाद में व्हेन द फंक्शनैलिटीज एंड एवरीथिंग हैज बीन डेवलप, जब उसको हमने डिप्लॉय करके दे दिया फाइनल कमिटमेंट के साथ, अब वो उसको यूज कर रहा है, तो फॉर दैट ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द टाइम दे कैन यूज, दे जस्ट वांटेड टू हैव द फैसिलिटी ऑफ SaaS, तब वो जा सकते हैं प्रोफेशनल एडिशन, या फिर जो एसेंशियल अपना एसेंशियल एडिशन, एसेंशियल तो जनरली यूज नहीं करते, प्रोफेशनली यूज करते हैं। तो इस तरह से प्रोफेशनल, आप दिमाग में इमीडिएटली क्वेश्चन आया भी होगा कि अगर अनलिमिटेड और इस पे ही करना है सारा काम एंटरप्राइज पे, तो प्रोफेशनल और एसेंशियल एडिशन क्यों होता है, तो ये ऐसा होता है कॉस्ट बचाने के लिए, ये पैसा बचाने के लिए, कि अभी अगर मान के चलो अगले साल में हमने इस साल में पूरा काम करके उसको दिसंबर में सबमिट कर दिया, अभी बोला कि अभी कोई डेवलपमेंट नहीं, देखो आने वाले 2 साल कुछ नहीं करना है, बस एप्लीकेशन यूज करना है, तो फिर वो अनलिमिटेड और एंटरप्राइज का लाइसेंस क्यों लेगा। तब वो सेल्सफोर्स के साथ में बात करता है, इवन वी ड्राफ्ट एन ईमेल टू सेल्सफोर्स कि अभी इसके एंड से 1 1.5 साल तक कुछ भी प्रोजेक्टेड नहीं है, वी आर नॉट प्रोजेक्टिंग एनी चेंजेस यू नो, और एनी आई मीन द फाइनल कमिटमेंट, द फाइनल एग्रीमेंट एंड एवरीथिंग हैज बीन डन एंड वी आर डिलीवरिंग द फाइनल प्रोडक्ट टू दिस। Now, for the next 2 years, we are projecting it. They are not going to have any sort of development. So, could you please replace the license with the professional edition onto the next coming whatever the तो जब भी रिन्यूअल आता है, तो उसको उस वक्त हो सकता है बहुत पैसे देने पड़ रहे होंगे, $300 पर यूजर, ठीक है, $300 पर यूजर, बट नेक्स्ट ईयर जैसे ही वो आएगा दैट कम टू $100 पर यूजर और $150 वट एवर, इस तरह से। तो प्रोफेशनल एडिशन और एसेंशियल एडिशन जो है वो कॉस्ट कटिंग के एडिशन, और वो आपको सिर्फ SaaS प्रोवाइड करके देते हैं तब तक जब तक आपको कोई डेवलपमेंट की रिक्वायरमेंट। अब 2024 के मिडल पे उसको पता चला कि अभी कुछ पॉलिसी चेंज कर रही है, आई जस्ट रिक्वायर्ड टू यूज सम नेसेसरी अमेंडमेंट्स इन माय एक्जिस्टिंग प्रोडक्ट, तो वो तो नहीं कर सकता ना, वो तो क्लाइंट है, वो हमारे पास आएगा, वापस आएगा स्काईलाइन में, बोलेगा कि यार अभी देयर आर सम मेजर चेंजेस आई वांटेड टू डू इन दैट, तो वी अगेन आस्क फॉर द सैंडबॉक्स, चलो सैंडबॉक्स दो। तो सैंडबॉक्स किसका चाहिए, इधर वी वांटेड अनलिमिटेड और एंटरप्राइज का सैंडबॉक्स चाहिए, तो यही दो एनवायरनमेंट है जहाँ पे हम काम कर सकते हैं, राइट। तो फिर व्हाट ही विल डू इज, वो बोलेगा अरे मेरे पास तो प्रोफेशनल एडिशन है, तो कोई बात नहीं ना, वी कैन ऐड, जैसे आपने साल के 6 महीने यूज किया है, तो 6 महीना बचा हुआ है, तो 6 महीने का पैसा आपको रिटर्न आता है, अगर इफ यू हैव पेड इट फॉर 1 ईयर, तो आपका फिर वो कॉस्ट कट के अगले बिल में एडजस्ट हो जाता है। फिर देन उसके साल के मिडल में अगस्त महीने से आगे उसको अभी अनलिमिटेड चाहिए, तो फिर सेल्सफोर्स क्या करता है कि जो नेक्स्ट बिलिंग बनती है उसमें उतना पैसा एडजस्ट कर देता है आपका। फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने मेरे को $300 पहले दे रखा है, ठीक है, और 250 आप यूज कर सके, $50 बचा है, तो अगले बिल में आपको $50 माइनस हो जाएगा, और योर लाइसेंस गॉट रिप्लेस फ्रॉम प्रोफेशनल एडिशन टू दी अनलिमिटेड। जैसे अनलिमिटेड आ जाता है, फिर हम वापस से वही प्रोसेस दोहराते हैं कि लास्ट फॉर द सैंडबॉक्सेस एंड एवरीथिंग एंड देन वी स्टार्ट डेवलपमेंट। हम डेवलपमेंट कर देते, डेवलपमेंट खत्म हो गया, उसको बोलते हैं अब आप लाइसेंस करिए। तो बेसिकली ये इस तरह से फ्लोट होता है पूरा, अंडरस्टैंड। अभी शुरुआत में इतनी बातें नहीं बताई जाती, एंड यू वर वेरी नोवाइस टू दिस कोर्स, इस एनवायरनमेंट में अगर मैं जब आपको शुरू कर रहा था ये बैच, तब अगर मैं इतनी चीजें बताता ना तो तुम बाउंस हो गए, तुमने से एक भी नहीं क्लास में ज्वाइन, सबके साथ भाग गए, बराबर है। तो ये चीजें कुछ कैसा है देखो, ये डिस्कशन जो चल रहा है ये मैनेजरियल लेवल का डिस्कशन, और ये पूरा तुमको कोई नहीं बता सकता सिवाय उसके जो वाकई में मैनेजर, ठीक है, जो एक्चुअली डील करता है, जो टीम मैनेज करता है, जो ये सारी स्ट्रेटजी को प्लान करता है, ये कोई किताबी नॉलेज नहीं है, ये बिल्कुल 100% रियल टाइम का नॉलेज कि इवन व्हेन वी सजेस्ट दैट, हम कौन कौन से लाइसेंस को कब, लाइसेंस की अपनी अपनी स्टेजेस होती हैं, कब सजेस्ट करना कौन सा लाइसेंस कब सजेस्ट करना। तो फॉर इनिशियल डेज, फॉर आवर इनिशियल डेज ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, जब भी हम शुरू करते हैं, व्हेन अ क्लाइंट कम टू अस, वी ईदर आस्क फॉर अनलिमिटेड एंटरप्राइज एडिशन और अनलिमिटेड, यहाँ से शुरुआत होती है हमेशा। और इसी के सैंडबॉक्सेस रहते हैं फॉर योर एंटायर डेवलपमेंट पर्पस। जब भी आप एज अ डेवलपर काम कर रहे हो, आपको या तो अनलिमिटेड का ही सैंडबॉक्स मिलेगा या एंटरप्राइज का ही मिलेगा। क्योंकि इसी में आपके पोस्ट.com है ना, पोस्ट.com जो आपको रिक्वायर्ड है, जहाँ पे आपको जो कुछ भी बनाना है वो सारा पोस्ट.com से बनता है, वो इन 2 एडिशन में अवेलेबल है। तो क्लाइंट को भी जो लाइसेंस लेना पड़ेगा वो यही लेना, क्लाइंट को भी जो लाइसेंस लेना है वो यही लेना। ऐसा नहीं हो सकता क्लाइंट प्रोफेशनल एडिशन का ले ले और आपको जो सैंडबॉक्स बना के दे उसमें आपको एंटरप्राइज की फंक्शनलिटी दे, नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। अब जैसे आप देख रहे हो ये वाला एडिशन, ये कौन सा एडिशन है, ये 30 डेज ट्रायल अकाउंट, ये एक प्रोफेशनल एडिशन। अगर बाय द वे क्लाइंट ने ये खरीद लिया गलती से, तो ये किसी काम का नहीं। इसके काम का होगा तो होगा हमारे किसी काम का। बिकॉज अगर वो अभी जब मैं इसे सैंडबॉक्स बनाऊंगा, अभी जब मैं इसे सैंडबॉक्स बनाऊंगा, जब मैं सैंडबॉक्स क्रिएशन पे आता हूँ आपको, जब मैं इसे सैंडबॉक्स बनाऊंगा, तो वो सैंडबॉक्स में वो फंक्शनैलिटी कैसे आ सकती है जो प्रोडक्शन पे नहीं, जो प्रोडक्शन पे होती है। प्रोडक्शन का मिरर हो इमेज होता है तुम्हारा सैंड। अगर मेरे सर पे अभी बाल नहीं है, मैं मिरर के सामने खड़ा हो जाऊंगा तो क्या मिरर पे बाल नजर आ जाएंगे? नहीं, ऑब्वियसली नहीं। जो मिरर आप जैसा दिखते हो ना वैसे ही आप मिरर पे दिखते हो, राइट। तो प्रोडक्शन में जो सारी फंक्शनैलिटी है वही आती सैंडबॉक्स। इसीलिए एट द बिगनिंग स्टेज वी ऑलवेज आस्क द क्लाइंट टू गिव दिस लाइसेंस। अगर भाई की जेब में पैसा कम हो तब हम बोलते चल ठीक है कोई बात नहीं, एंटरप्राइज। लेकिन हमेशा कोशिश होती है अनलिमिटेड। अनलिमिटेड के बाद ये 24/7 बाई सपोर्ट, 24/7 सपोर्ट। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, ये आपके लिए उतनी इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है बट एक्चुअल एनवायरमेंट। तो हमारी कोशिश हमेशा रहती है एज अ मैनेजर, वी ऑलवेज आस्क क्लाइंट टू गिव दिस 90% 80% टाइम दे देते। कुछ होते हैं थोड़े से बजट जिसका कम होता है या कुछ और रीजंस की वजह से स्मॉल स्केल में, बिकॉज क्लाइंट को भी समझना जरूरी है ना, क्लाइंट का बजट भी समझना चाहिए तब एंटरप्राइज। वहाँ पे फिर आपको मैनेज करना पड़ता है, आपको सेल्स फोर्स साइड से यूजुअली सपोर्ट कुछ नहीं। तब आपको आपकी टीम को ही पूरा मैनेज करना पड़ता है तक हो जा रहा हूँ। व्हाट यू कैन मैक्सिमम डू इज लाइक यू ड्राफ्ट एन ईमेल, ज़्यादा कुछ होता है। सेल्स फोर्स से कोई बंदा आपके साथ इन्वॉल्व नहीं होता एंटरप्राइज में। तो बेसिकली ऐसा है। अब ये होने के बाद है ना, आफ्टर दिस, जब सबको डिलीवर कर दिया तब अपन क्लाइंट को बोलते हैं कि अभी आप एंटरप्राइज और लिमिटेड का पैसा मत भरो, नाउ चेंज योर लाइसेंस ईदर टू प्रोफेशनल और। जैसी फाइनल रिलीज आती है तब हम बोलते हैं कि बिकॉज अभी नेक्स्ट 6 महीना 8 महीने, या इफ यू वांटेड कि चलो अभी 6 महीना बचा है अपने पास में और 6 महीने में कोई और चेंजेस आ सकते हैं प्रॉबेबली, तो ठीक है आप ये साल जैसे आपने एंटरप्राइज का मेरे को दिया है, अभी चल रहा है मई चल रहा है, तो आप एक काम करो ये साल तक कंटिन्यू कर लो, और दिसंबर जनवरी जनवरी में नेक्स्ट जब भी आप रिन्यूअल आएगा, अब आपको लगा कि नहीं आप कोई चेंजेस नहीं है, कोई कोई चेंजेस नहीं है, ठीक है, एंड यू जस्ट वांटेड कि अभी इसको मैं कंटिन्यू करूँ, तो फिर आप अपने लाइसेंस को चेंज करवा लेना। फिलहाल आपके पास एंटरप्राइज है, आप उसे प्रोफेशनल पे कर लेना, या फिर ये आपका कॉस्टिंग कम हो जाएगा। फिर आने वाले 2-3 साल तक वो इसी लाइसेंस पे चले। फिर जब उसको कभी भी चेंजेस रिक्वायर्ड होते हैं तब वो अपन से बात करता है, फिर अपन अमेंडमेंट्स खोलते हैं, वापस लाइसेंस चेंज करवाते हैं, फिर से एंटरप्राइज या अनलिमिटेड पे लेके आते हैं, उसका सैंडबॉक्स क्रिएट करते हैं और स्टार्ट करते हैं। इस तरह से काम चलता है, इस तरह से बेसिकली काम। ये होते हैं सैंडबॉक्सेस और ये होते हैं एडिशन का पूरा डिस्कशन। ये देखो जो बताया ना, तो ये ऐसी चीज है कि विदाउट एक्सपीरियंस कोई बता ही नहीं सकता, स्पेशली और ये इवन डेवलपर्स भी नहीं बता पाते, बिकॉज ये एज अ सिस्टम एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर या एज एन कंसल्टेंट, ठीक है, एज एन मैनेजर ही ये चीजें पता चलती। व्हेन यू गोइंग टू बिकम द मैनेजर देन यू आर गोइंग टू हैव दिस। आपकी केस में चलो अच्छा है कि मैं हूँ सामने में, मेरे को पता है, तो वो भी पता है, मैं सारी चीजें डिस्कस, भले आप उस लेवल पे हो या नहीं, आप उस लेवल पे एंट्री मारोगे या नहीं मारोगे वो एक अलग है, लेकिन वो नॉलेज है आपको देना जरूरी है ना। और वही पर्पस है आपके और मेरे इस ट्रेनिंग के में हम दोनों के जो मिला है, तो आप इसी पर्पज से यू वांटेड टू गेट एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम माय साइड, व्हाई आई शुड आई हाइड। ये सोच के कि आप तो अभी मैनेजर थोड़ी ना बनने, तो ऐसा नहीं है वो, मेरी तो सोच ऐसी नहीं है, इन्हीं से बढ़ता है मेरे से। तो अब ये होते हैं सैंड बॉक्सेस, ठीक है, और इसके लिए जो रिक्वायर्ड है वो हमने कर लिया। नाउ अब इसका एक टाइप जो है वो टाइप यहीं से डिस्कस कर देते हैं, बाय टुमारो वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट बाय क्रिएटिंग द सैंड बॉक्सेस। और उसके आगे का सैंड बॉक्सेस 4 तरह के होते हैं। सबसे पहला होता है आपका डेवलपर और डेवलपर प्रो, ठीक है। सैंडबॉक्सेस जो होते हैं वो 4 तरह के, डेवलपर और डेवलपर प्रो, पार्शियल कॉपी एंड फुल कॉपी, ठीक है। डेवलपर और डेवलपर प्रो जो होते हैं ये यूजुअली डेवलपमेंट पर्पस की, डेवलपर्स को मोस्टली डेवलपर प्रो सैंडबॉक्स, मोस्टली जो होते हैं डेवलपर प्रो यूज, ठीक है। उसके बाद में आता है पार्शियल कॉपी एंड फुल कॉपी। नाउ हियर इज एन असाइनमेंट, here I'm giving you to, and because that's or this assignment is very important, you know, this assignment is actually very important. Why? Because they will going to ask you this data input. It's an assignment. Elaborate या फिर स्टडी करो, elaborate करो, स्टडी करो, और या फिर या डेवलप स्टार्ट ऑल टाइप्स ऑफ सैंड बॉक्सेस के जो चारों टाइप मैंने आपको बता रखे हैं कि इसको इलाबरेट करो, इसकी स्टडी करो, या फिर इसके ऊपर डिफरेंट जैसा चाहे वैसा थ्योरी बनाओ। बट आई वांटेड यू टू हैव अ डिटेल आइडिया अबाउट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ फंक्शनैलिटी। फुल कॉपी में आप ऑब्वियसली समझ जाओगे दैट्स अ कंप्लीट रेप्लिका ऑफ योर प्रोडक्शन, एवरीथिंग व्हाट इज देयर इनटू द प्रोडक्शन इज देयर इनटू द फुल कॉपी। और कुछ चीजें फिर धीरे धीरे यहाँ से माइनस होती है, मतलब हायरार्की एक्चुअली गोज फ्रॉम बॉटम टू अप, एवरीथिंग इज ऑन टू द प्रोडक्शन is available with full copy. Some of the features are restricted, then partial copy. Some more restricted feature, then developer code. Some more restricted is developer. Okay. So this is the lightest version. This is the heaviest version of this. Right. Now you require to understand what are the major differences between everything between this developer pro, developer partial copy, and everything. Right. I wanted you to create a difference, or rather make a study, or rather point-wise elaborate the what, but post it into your group by today. Right. And by tomorrow will be produce file account as administrator. By tomorrow we will be going to create the sandbox. Then we will map the sandbox to the production. We actually require to create a chain. We require to join. We require to map production with us. Right. By tomorrow will be an essential lecture. By tomorrow because we are going to create the sandbox. Right. So here you can see the types as well: developer, developer pro, and the partial copy and full copy. But with this free days trial, with this 30 days trial account, you only get 10 developer. So don't get any developer pro, don't get any partial copy, any pro. That is available with the paid versions. Paid. Mostly they are available with your enterprise and other pieces. With this addition, 30 days trial account, although we have developers and those, how many copies of them? 10 licenses we are having. That means I could put it at least 10. Now sandboxes sometimes have name like QA, quality assurance or testing. This sandbox is going to be used by, for example, development or the testing team. Then we have UAT, universal acceptance testing. These are generally the managers are going. Then stages sandbox, the project manager, delivery manager, they are going to have. And then finally, going to get loaded. Okay. So if you are developing something that is somewhere around the developer sandbox जो होता है, developer sandbox में जो develop करते हैं, then these changes are being loaded into developer pro. डेवलपर प्रो सैंडबॉक्स जो कि जनरली आपके जो ऑडियो लीड्स होते हैं या टेस्टर्स होते हैं दे विल गोइंग टू यूज, एंड फ्रॉम डेवलपर प्रो एक्चुअली इट्स गोइंग टू बी लोडेड इनटू सैंडबॉक्स पार्शियल कॉपी सैंड, पार्शियल के बाद में फुल कॉपी सैंडबॉक्स, फुल कॉपी पे सारी यूज केसेस के साथ में सारे डेटा के साथ में रन होता है, एंड देन एवरीथिंग गोज फाइन, बाद में अपन कर सकते हैं। एक चीज और एक बात और, आपको याद होगा कि हमने टेस्ट क्लासेस जब पढ़ा था तब भी थोड़ा सा कंसेप्ट निकाला था मैं, when we are migrating any when we are migrating anything from sandbox to sandbox, तब आपको कोड कवरेज नहीं देना। फॉर एग्जांपल यू डेवलप अ अपेक्स क्लास, यू डेवलप अ ट्रिगर, है ना, तब आपको कोड कवरेज यहाँ नहीं देना। when you are moving it, there is a class one dot class 1.apxt txt, the trigger है 1.apxt a trigger, and when you are moving that class, or when you are moving that trigger from developer sandbox to developer pro sandbox, or maybe development to QA sandbox or UAT, तब आपको कोड कवरेज देना नहीं पड़ता है, ऐसा वेरी कॉमन। बट वेन एवर यू आर मूविंग इट फाइनली फ्रॉम सैंडबॉक्स टू प्रोडक्शन, जब आप प्रोडक्शन पे लेके जाते हैं जनरली फ्रॉम फुल कॉपी टू फुल कॉपी से ही जाता है, तब फॉर एवरी अपेक्स क्लास we minimum required how much 75% for every apex class, and for every trigger we minimum required 1% of code, otherwise आपका डिप्लॉयमेंट फेल होता है। अदरवाइज आपका डिप्लॉयमेंट। तो टेस्ट क्लासेस के टाइम पे जब मैंने आपको बताया था कि फॉर एवरी अपेक्स क्लास यू रिक्वायर टू मेंटेन 75% ऑफ क्वालिटी कोड, फॉर एवरी ट्रिगर यू रिक्वायर टू एटलीस्ट मेंटेन 1% ऑफ क्वालिटी कोड, and this quality code is being covered from the test classes. Test classes is the only way to write to got this quality code, to got this code coverage. That's the reason you should require to type. That's the reason you should require to write down the test classes for every class and for every. So that is not required over here. यहाँ उसकी कोई जरूरत नहीं होती है. But still, as a developer, it's your responsibility to write down the test class. If you write an Apex class, you also require to write down the test class. Create a trigger, you also require to create a trigger. हालांकि वो इस स्टेज पे मूव करता है ना, तब यहाँ पे उसकी जरूरत नहीं होती. बट एक्चुअली फाइनली जब वो स्टेज से प्रोडक्शन पे जाएगा, ठीक है, स्टेज सैंडबॉक्स जनरली लास्ट सैंडबॉक्स है, स्टेज मतलब आखिरी हो, नाम दिया होगा उसको, उसमें इसका टाइप कौन सा, फुल कॉपी, यूएटी जैसे पार्शियल कॉपी, पर ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है, यूएटी भी आपका डेवलपर सैंडबॉक्स कोई जरूरी नहीं. स्टेज जो नाम होता है जनरली स्टेज बॉक्स, वो फाइनल बॉक्स होता है, वो पार्शियल फुल कॉपी सैंडबॉक्स. जब यहाँ से यहाँ जाता है ना, तब रिक्वायर्ड होता है आपको कोड का. 75% कोड होना चाहिए एटलीस्ट क्वालिटी कोड आपकी अपेक्स क्लास का, और 1% कोड होना चाहिए आपके 3%. तो हम उसको ना यहीं पे तैयार करते हैं. ये एक नॉर्मली लोग क्या सोचते हैं कि इवन व्हेन यू आर मूविंग कोड, व्हेन यू आर मूविंग अ क्लास और अ ट्रिगर फ्रॉम सैंडबॉक्स टू सैंडबॉक्स, दैट टाइम आल्सो यू रिक्वायर टू गिव द कवरेज. एक्चुअली इट इज नॉट. एक्चुअली इट इज नॉट. दैट कवरेज इज रिक्वायर्ड ओवर हियर. दैट कवरेज इज रिक्वायर्ड ओवर. बट यहाँ थोड़ी ना हम प्रिपेयर करेंगे. स्टेज कौन यूज कर रहे हैं आपका, स्टेज यूज कर रहे हैं आपके लाइक डिलीवरी हेड यूज कर रहा है प्रोजेक्ट में. क्या वो लोग टेस्ट क्लासेस लिखते हैं? ऑब्वियसली नहीं. दैट यू रिक्वायर टू डू इट. आपने कोड लिखे हैं, आप ही की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. इसीलिए इसको प्रिपेयर यहीं पे कर लो. अदरवाइज उसकी जरूरत यहाँ कहीं नहीं होती, उसकी जरूरत यहाँ पर है. तो एक कॉमन एक कंफ्यूजन होता है और अक्सर लोग गलत आंसर देते हैं इंटरव्यू पे कि जैसे कोड कवरेज के बारे में बात करती है, they ask them whenever if I could ask you like this, अगर मेरे को पूछना है तो मैं इसको पूछूंगा, if I am moving a code from developer sandbox to QA sandbox, or I am moving a code from developer sandbox to UAD sandbox, I am moving a code from developer core sandbox to UAD sandbox, how much code coverage is required? तो आपने क्वेश्चन सुना नहीं, कुछ भी ढंग से नहीं. आपने क्या बोला, 75%, 75% फॉर अपेक्स क्लास, 1% फॉर टू. सही है, लेकिन आपने गलत बोला ना. आपने क्या बोला क्वेश्चन की, व्हेन आई एम मूविंग अ कोड फ्रॉम डेवलपर टू डेवलपर प्रो, या फिर मैं बोल रहा हूँ डेवलपर प्रो टू यूएटी, या फिर यूएटी से फुल कॉपी. मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, सैंडबॉक्स टू सैंडबॉक्स माइग्रेशन. तो व्हाट एक्चुअली यू रिक्वायर टू से मी एट दिस मोमेंट, तो व्हाट आपको क्या बोलना चाहिए था कि एक्चुअली व्हेनेवर वी आर मूविंग, व्हेनेवर वी आर डिप्लॉइंग, व्हेनेवर वी आर ट्रांसफरिंग कोड फ्रॉम सैंडबॉक्स टू सैंडबॉक्स, दैट टाइम वी सर्टेनली डोंट रिक्वायर टू प्रोवाइड. हाँ, but at the final, when you are onto the stage sandbox, and then you are trying to move the code from the stage sandbox to production, when you are moving the code from full copy sandbox to production environment, that time you certainly definitely require to provide a code coverage. That is 75% minimum for Apex class and 1% for Apex trigger. तो अगर क्वेश्चन आया तो पहले सुनो. If they are asking you कि when they are moving the code from sandbox to sandbox, any stage of sandbox, whether it's a development to developer pro to UAT, partial copy, or partial copy to full copy, you certainly don't require. In some of the organization, these are not the stage. डायरेक्टली यहाँ से यहाँ भी जाता है. तो दैट डिपेंड्स ऑन द लाइसेंस टू लाइसेंस यार. हाँ, ऐसा नहीं, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं हमेशा 4 ही सैंडबॉक्स हो, कोई जरूरी नहीं या 4 ही टाइप हो. सब डिपेंड करता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पर. बट यूजुअली 4 टाइप होते हैं, तो आपको बता दी. तो अगर क्वेश्चन क्या है कि व्हेन यू आर मूविंग अ कोड फ्रॉम सैंडबॉक्स, दिस सैंडबॉक्स टू दैट सैंडबॉक्स, हाउ मच कोड कवरेज रिक्वायर्ड, तब आपको पूरा भी आंसर देना है और सही भी देना है. तो आपको ये बताना है कि मूविंग व्हेन यू आर मूविंग अ फंक्शनलिटी फ्रॉम सैंडबॉक्स टू सैंडबॉक्स, दैट टाइम यू सर्टेनली डोंट रिक्वायर टू हैव your coverage. That time you don't require to give the coverage. But actually you are moving it from partial to full, sorry, full to the production environment. तब आपको कोड कवरेज. तब आप बताओ, क्योंकि 75% मिनिमम फॉर अपेक्स क्लास एंड 1% मिनिमम फॉर दी. So that's all for today. By tomorrow, I'll be creating the copies of the sandboxes. With this edition, we only have developer sandbox with us. 10 copy मैं hardly 2 या 3 prepare करूंगा और उसके साथ start करूंगा. What is the use of inbound and outbound? So by today, every one of you, there are two things. First, like create your 30 days trial account. That is the first thing. And second thing, I wanted every one of you to go and solve this assignment. Go and read. And how many different types of sandboxes are there, and what is what is the detail of every send. Elaborate, make a study, or please, or otherwise you can like create a report and post it into your group. I wanted this to be every one of you, all the 7 people will post your thing, right? That's it.